JudgeMagistR there was.
Greetings everyone, this is JudgeMagistR, and for today's Speedrun 101 episode we're gonna be focusing on Crogon. Crogon is one of the 3 flying bosses in this game, and my personal favorite to speedrun against. Crogon also features a speedrun tag exclusively to him alone, and for today's guide, I will uncover the many ways that you can save time against this boss. Here's the table of content, other things I'll be going through this video, and without any further delays, let's jump straight into it. As usual, we'll begin with the intentional ways of climbing, and as for Crogon, it has 3 intentional ways of which you can climb on it. The first one will be ringing the bells located at the pillars from Crogon's arena at the lower levels. Once you ring all of the bells, you raise an altar at the middle of the arena. Once you climb this said altar, Crogon will be entranced by the fire, and then he will charge a powerful blast through his mouth. With bow and arrow in hand, aim it at the golden flame, and shoot the arrow with the flames of gold at Crogon's mouth, which will stun him enough time for you to grab at any part of his body. On another note, Crogon has 4 bell sigils and 3 hook spots, and they will be useful for his move Traversals on the boss, which I'll discuss later in the video. Now for the second method, is a bit similar to the first one. This time you won't shoot your arrows and you must wait until Crogon approaches. You could wait at a safer spot. And once Crogon reaches down enough and shoots the purple blast at the altar, you can jump off from the altar and grapple onto the chest hook spot, which leads you near to the chest sigil. To be honest, I'm not wholly sure this is truly an intentional method. However, it is a good and faster setup to be worth mentioned. As for the third and final method, which is also mentioned in the lore notes, you can glide to Crogon from the Jotun's hand and land on Crogon manually or grapple at one of the hook spots. To reach said spot, there are 2 alternatives that can be done. The first one will be starting the fight from the upper levels of Crogon's arena, which can be accessed through Crogon's cave. This is a good method for the any % route of the game. And the second method, which is more suitable for echo mode, using the glider boost to reach high enough where the Jotun's hand is located. Alternatively, you can use the very same glider boost to climb on Crogon, but I do advise against it. Now that we made clear of the intentional methods, let's talk about the shaking variations that Crogon has. The Crogon has 3 shaking variations. The first one is Crogon's wing flap. The shake happens every time you ring the bell on either of Crogon's wings. Sometimes it is done by its own volition, having the hitbox solely on the wings. The second one would be Crogon's roar. Every time you ring either the tail or the chest sigil, Crogon will roar briefly, which will affect the player for a few frames, similar to what you see in Draking. The third one is not exactly a shake. Once you are climbing on the chest area, Crogon may stay his body on the horizontal state, which will make your character legs hanging until Crogon returns to his vertical stance. This is something that needs to be avoided, otherwise you'll lose tons of time because Crogon may take a while to turn back to his vertical stance. But thankfully, Crogon has many ways to save time through practicing his move Traversals, enough to make up for some of the time losses caused possibly by the chest sigil. These Traversals, however, may be advanced or overwhelming for some players, so I came up with advanced to beginner-friendly methods to save time against this boss. But first, the thing you must have to adapt is definitely setting a specific order of which you have to ring the bells. And in my personal experience, I believe that the chest sigil always has to be the first or the last one to be destroyed. The reason for this is that we don't have many smooth Traversals from the chest sigil to go to another one. Another reason for that is that, let's say if Crogon has only the chest sigil remaining, that may potentially make Crogon behave in a way that allows you to have more of a steady chance to ring the chest bell sigil without getting interrupted. Since Crogon has 2 different approaches on the any % and the echo mode speedrun route of the game, I came up with 4 different consistent orders of which you can ring the bells without getting interrupted as much. So with that said, let's begin with the any % method first. Once you reach the upper levels of Crogon's arena, the place you want to be is at a high point from the Jotun's hand. It is highly recommended to reach said spot with the grappling hook to reach fast enough for the launch. Being high enough will allow you to glide yourself at either of Crogon's wings. I do also highly recommend landing at the left one because it's the most consistent place to land. Unfortunately, this is the only part of the run where playing safe won't benefit you, since for the most part the any % method is risky and waiting for Krogons to reach closer to you may take a whole minute. To make this risky launch consistent enough, you will first need to reach the hand fast enough. There are many spots of which you can jump off, but I do highly recommend jumping off from the spot displayed in the footage. I do also highly recommend jumping off while facing the circular structure over there. Keep the glider until you're near Crogon, and once Crogon screams, you should let go of the glider and only use the glider again to not fly over the wings. Putting the analog stick to the opposite direction might help with that as well. So once you land on the wing and unbind the sigil, you may face some pace issues while trying to move to the next sigil. And that's where the smooth traversals comes in. For the most part, ringing the bells on the wings will make Crogon turn and shake you off. If Crogon flaps while at a horizontal stance, you could drop from the wing and get launched. It is recommended to land or grapple at the tail region. For a safer approach, you could wait until the shaking is done, and if Crogon is still on a horizontal stance, you could jump off from it and glide towards the tail hook spot and grapple it. But sometimes Crogon may be flying in a vertical position, and that doesn't really allow us to run on the wings. If the wing is upward, you can jump off and reach the tail sigil. Grappling is recommended. You could also jump off and fall in the chest region and make your way to the tail or go to the other wing. Now, if the wing is downward, I do highly recommend you to simply wait until Crogon turns on a different position so you can try any of the other methods mentioned before depending on how he turns. Now, once you're at the tail and unbind the bell from there, you have 3 traversals of which you can make. The first would be running your way to the remaining wing while dodge rolling and running. The path is pretty thin and you could risk and run on it, but this could kill your run, and if you fall, the path is not only thin but also slippery. You can grapple yourself back up if you react fast enough. If you don't want to take the risk, however, Crogon will eventually turn vertically and that allows you to run safely. At a certain point, you could even grapple yourself to the chest sigil, but I don't recommend it because of what I stated before. The chest sigil has only risky and inconsistent traversals and should be left for the last, so make your way to the remaining wing instead. Now for a more advanced method would be jumping off from the tail to the wing once Crogon is turning. I recommend not using your glider as much for this launch, only once you're near the wing to avoid fall damage when landing on the wing. Another thing I recommend is only grabbing the fur once you think it's not safe to land. Sometimes it makes the character clip through the wing, but this is a rare occurrence, so don't you worry. And once you land at the remaining wing and done with the sigil, you could simply dodge roll and fall from the wing and grapple at the chest hook spot. Or you could also casually run to the chest sigil. Although, I do recommend the riskier strat for that one because Crogon will hold on this vertical position for a while, giving you enough time to unbind the chest sigil. If you get everything done right, Crogon will be defeated around 3 minutes. But even if you mess up or play a little safer, that will still be under the 3-minute mark. As you may have noticed, in the beginning I mentioned something about Crogon having a technique exclusively to him alone, and that's what we talk about right now. Discovered by another speedrunner named Fuzzles back in the early access days, you can cut Crogon's wing flap animation by half, and here's how you can do that. Every time you ring a bell on either of the wings, Crogon will flap his wings twice as a way to shake the character off. However, if you look closely, you can realize that this prompt right here vanishes and the attack one reappears. But he will shake again if you press the attack button. But there's the catch. If you let go and re-grab instead, you basically cancel the second half of Crogon's wing flap shaking variation. And this works just as well as a half cycle technique, but it's a bit more similar to those who played Shadow Colossus, doing a speedrun technique called the cycle stab, so I'll just call it the cycle grab. The downsides from this method though is that you may slide down and fall if done in a vertical position. And speaking of positions, the second half of the shaking variation makes Crogon change his stance. Using the cycle grab technique will basically delay this action, and this also may potentially mess with the pace of your run a bit. As for the echo mode approach, once the run starts, it is recommended to grapple above the entrance looking structure and glide your way to that pillar over there. Once you reach it, go northeast to reach one of the glider boosts. Like I said before, this glider boost will lead you to the Jotun's Hand, but I personally recommend gliding to it only if you reach the glider boost before 37 seconds. The reason for this is that Crogon will make its way, and if you take longer than that to reach said destination, you'll miss the chance to land on Crogon, therefore having to restart the fight. If you happen to be slower in the first bit of the run, I recommend using this glider boost to grapple on Crogon's chest hook spot. Although the order of the sigils to release Crogon will change in the echo mode, that does not change nor impact how the traversals are made. Just keep an eye on Crogon's stance and movement, and remember there's move traversals that has been taught on this video. If the chest sigil has been giving you trouble, you could start from the wing instead. But for this launch, I recommend practicing the first bit of the run to reach the glider boost fast enough. Once you reach it and grapple at the Jotun's arm, make use of the remaining time and then grapple at a higher spot. Once Crogon turns towards your direction, you can jump off and land anywhere on Crogon's body. I recommend going to the nearest wing so that the sigil unbind order from this one will be the same as the any% method. and such similarity between these game modes will increase consistency on your Crogon runs.